Blagden when there was a god of war. He is the one who created the warring nation in the Nether God realm. Blagden brought millions of warriors to capture the fortress of the Yellow God. When he was about to seize power in the lower realm, he was betrayed by his own brother Divrup and his beloved Sakura, who became Blagden from a family in the city of Shirmori. He was the past genius of the family, but he was framed and imprisoned in terrible chains, and the meridians of the god of war were destroyed. However, Blagden was still the god of war, so his story has just begun. Divrup's sibling and Sakura's lover were cruel and heartless, and therefore they will see no mercy. Blagden woke up to understand what was happening to him. His head hurt terribly. Inexplicable things happened to him. When everything shone around him, he realized that he had received a second chance. The guy was able to be reborn after 100 years. Blagden before he left for another world was invincible. But now he was in the body of some weakling. Every time he looked at himself, he was horrified. All the meridians of the new body were destroyed, so it was impossible to absorb the power. But fortunately for Blagden, the heart of 10 demons was reborn with him. Namely, this heart was the reason that he became a powerful god of war. So broken meridians were not such a big problem. Everything returned to its place. Blagden could not stop from the surge of inner strength, when suddenly a sweet girl burst into the room. It was Akari that Blagden took under guardianship 10 years ago. She brought her brother medicine, but it seems that the guy noticed something on her face. Blagden could not contain his emotions from what he saw. There were beatings on the sister's face. No matter how the girl tried to hide, she still had to tell the truth. It turned out that when she went to the pharmacy to find the elixir of return to life, the manager did not give it and hit the baby in the face. Although Blagden was reborn, his feelings for Akari have increased rather than decreased since merging with the soul of the new body. Akari begged her brother not to go to them. After all, they are not able to defeat anyone. Unfortunately, the brother was unconscious for too long. Akari said that her father doesn't want anything to happen to him either. The family's only desire is for Blagden to be happy. Someone slammed down the doors with Akari screaming that she was the one who stole the return to life elixir for her sick brother. It was Kai. He was the manager of the pharmacy, and it was he who hit the girl. Of course, there was nothing to hide. Of course, the girl continued to defend herself and tried to prove her innocence. But everyone saw perfectly that the sick brother was now alive and well. If he has not taken the elixir, then how can he get out of bed? Brother believed in the innocence of his sister. But the manager of the pharmacy with his servants continued to shout his own. Of course, Blagden stood up for his sister. The servants drew their swords and rushed at the boy. But this is the god of war himself, even if in the past. 2 servants were frightened, but the third decided to try his luck and attack the guy. Blagden stood steadfastly and confidently, so that the servants would not try. The guy was stronger than all of them put together. The manager was overcome with rage. He gave the order to forget and the little girl first to take the life of the guy. But Blagden just disappeared. It was his power called Wind Shadow Step. But it is unlikely that a guy can be in this rack for a long time, because he hadn't used it for a long time. The manager was overconfident. He decided to attack the guy himself. And of course it was the last decision in his life. Blagden immediately repulsed the attack and used one more of his skill, which was called Fist Blade. The manager didn't even have time to say anything in the end. Sister did not know how to behave. Blade Fist is just a mid-level mastery skill. But in this city he is considered powerful. The servants were frightened. And the guy clearly made it clear that from now on, no one would dare to bully his sister. An adult man entered the room. He turned to the young master, glad that he was awake. But immediately his gaze shifted to the steward who had departed into the other world. Well, such was his fate for impudence. The man was shocked as the young master managed to fight with the manager and his servants. It could only mean one thing: that the young master restored his destroyed meridians, and the guy's fighting talent is back. The manager's crime was unforgivable, so the young master personally punished him. The uncle ordered the guards to carry away the body. Well, what will happen to the servants of the manager? With his terrible voice, the guy told that the servants helped the manager to commit the assassination and pass judgment. The servants had to be given 100 blows and also driven out of the house. No matter how the services begged the master, nothing came of them. The uncle helped the young master deal with what had happened. He also reported that Blagden's father would be happy to know that the guy was alive and well. Akari left with her uncle and the guy was left alone. He was tormented by many questions. One of them was about what his fighting spirit would be like in this life. But in order to awaken it, the guy must first reach level 9 body tempering. In his previous life, the young master received the heart of 10 demons from their abyss. His warlike soul was an ancient beast, and his name is Green Dragon. This demon's heart became even darker than it was before rebirth. 10 demonic hearts are various weapons of strange monsters and 5 elements. There are also 5 characters. It is gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. Blagden saw the blocked road when suddenly 10 inches of heaven. He heard that the source of the stars, the source of power, the source of chi, and the source of momentum are arguing. And the young master will once again become the god of war. 3 days have passed. The heart of 10 demons is different from what it was in the previous life. She is much stronger. For Blagden not to dig deeper, his heart had to put him in a coma. When suddenly his fist glowed with energy. Blagden received the 9th level of body hardening. But the fighting spirit in the family woke up very early. The day of awakening came too soon, which means that the family can drive the young master away. Sister did not agree with this. Well, why did the family's fighting spirit wake up so early? Everything didn't go according to plan. There must be something going on. Blagden suggested Akari go to the arena. Perhaps it is in the arena that they will be able to understand what the problem is. On the way, a wolf attacked a brother and sister. Akari was very scared. But the brother immediately closed it with him. This wolf was very fast. Blagden did not understand what was happening. Miraculously, he managed to repel one enemy attack. But this wolf clearly did not want to give up. He again tried to attack the young master. Thanks to this attack, the guy understood. Is it the power of the wind? But how is this possible? When the wolf began to attack again, Akari told his brother about this. The guy reacted very quickly, jumped over the attacking wolf, and struck him with a strong fist on the head right from the air. The sister was very scared, but she worried so much for nothing. Blagden coped with the wolf without any problems. The people who stood around were very unhappy that Blagden took the life of the wolf. They told him that after that, he would not be able to get along normally in the family. The guy did not react in any way, but simply stood and looked at his hand, which was in a red liquid. As it turned out, this wolf was unusual, but edible. But this did not bother Blagden in the slightest. Instead of arguing with these guys, he hugged his sister and went for a walk with her to the arena. Meanwhile, many people had gathered on the mountain near the monument. This is a monument to the fighting spirit. It can refer to the spirits of heaven and earth. He is also able to unlock the potential of the fighting spirit hidden in the body of a martial artist. There, the focus was on the second elder of the Osamu family. He asked for silence in the subject, since the awakening of the spirit began. Raiden was the first to be called to the monument. He was ordered to strike with his aura on the tablets of fighting spirit. Without thinking twice, the guy began to complete the task, but unfortunately he did not succeed in doing it the way he needed to. Since this guy is the weak link, during some tasks, he will always be let in first. His father cried a lot, but still hugged his son, and asked him not to be sad. In order to awaken the fighting spirit of the red class, it was not so bad, everything will be fine. In turn, the son read himself unfaithful, and not worthy to be here. After a while, the fighter still did not calm down much. My father invited him to eat noodles. This guy fell before the last, one of the most useless fighting spirits, which means that he most likely no longer has any chances to become better than he is now. Then the next participant named Michiaki was invited to the monument. This was a young promising guy who was impatiently waiting for his turn and finally waited. He was born with great strength, and a year ago he tamed a poisonous wolf in the forest completely alone. Also, people say that this boy has reached the 9th level of body tempering. It is for this reason that from the moment of awakening until today, his family has advanced exclusively. Michiaki is the protagonist of this martial spirit awakening ceremony. Meanwhile, Blagden came to the ceremony along with his sister. A lot of people knew this guy here. Since he is already 15 years old, he has one last chance to wake up. If this does not happen, then he may not come here anymore. There are also people who are not very happy to see him. But despite this, the guy was in a great mood, and even managed to joke. A strong stream of positive energy emanated from him. No one could spoil his mood. Meanwhile, near the monument, Michiaki was getting ready to show everyone around him who the real genius is. When the youth struck his blow, who behind him appeared the strongest fighting spirit, far from all the great masters, at that age, had such great strength. Everyone who was at the ceremony began to say that Blagden was not even close to that level. This fighting spirit was called Dragon Tiger Beast. Wonderful result. People around were simply delighted. How such a strong power can be stored in such a small boy. Then this boy with a sly smile approached Blagden and asked if he also wants to try. At that moment, the guy was completely not laughing. As soon as it was Blagden's turn to go to the monument, the guys who were with him declared throughout the ceremony that it was he who had taken the life of the wolf. As it turned out, it was the wolf of the one who is currently standing near the monument. This guy was just shocked that such a thing could be allowed at all. He almost tore apart those who told him this. Blagden, in turn, was not at all ashamed of his act, and even separately said that it was he who did it. Michiaki was very angry and couldn't believe this had happened. Then another guy ran by and called Blagden cheap because his mother was a prostitute. This daredevil quickly got in the face for his words and flew me how many meters. Then landed very painfully on the face. Michiaki fell apart even more due to the fact that the guy started a fight. Initially he put his wolf to sleep, and then beat his man right in front of him, for which he wanted revenge. So encouraged the fighting spirit. Blagden told him that his animals hurt people. Today he almost injured his sister, so putting the wolf to sleep was the best solution. If the owner of your animal cannot educate him, someone else will do it for him with his own methods. Unfortunately, these words had no effect on Michiaki, and he still wanted to avenge his poison wolf, even if he was really wrong in this situation. Blagden was an unusual guy. He also had his own spirit, and promised the boy that he would destroy his spirit in order to teach him how to behave. For some reason, Michiaki was too sure of himself, and even close to not admitting the fact that he could lose, so he decided to attack first. As expected, the boy easily returned from his blow. The audience also condemned Blagden for the fact that he only dodged, but this was only the beginning. It's too early to draw conclusions. Osamu began to ask the young fighter to stop, otherwise he could damage his soul. The kid replied that this was his own business, and now he simply had to take the life of Blagden. He put all his strength into the cards with his blow. In fact, it was a mediocre waste of energy, because not only strength is important, but also the accuracy of the blow. If everything continues like this, then the attacker will eventually get tired. During the battle, Blagden felt just fine. He charged a magical stream towards the young fighter, from which his spirit suffered greatly. If you do this for a very long time, you can damage the spirit once and for all. Michiaki is so young and already so ruthless. This type of people should be put to death from childhood. The boy was simply shocked by what was happening. He did not understand how Blagden could catch his spirit. Osamu asked the guy to stop this immediately, otherwise it could end very badly. Blagden listened to him, the flow of energy. In a past life, when the guy was young, he specialized in 3 martial arts: Shadow Check, Blade Fist, and Claw and Dragon King. The claws of the king can be transformed into dragon claws to capture the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. One claw can tear the firmament with unparalleled strength. It looks like Blagden overdid it, because Osamu said that the parent destroyed the future of the little boy's family. In fact, it also sounded ridiculous. How such a strong guy could not defeat Blagden? How could he even be called a genius? He is just nobody. The baby lay on the floor and cried, because his fighting spirit was gone. Began to ask why he was beaten, because he is still a child. From the outside it looks very pitiful, at least someone put the juvenile upstart in his place. Osamu tried to understand whether the spirit was completely destroyed or not. At the same time, Michiaki's father, whose name was Toshiro, called out among the crowd. He did not yet know that his son had been beaten without any chance, so he walked with his head held high and said that his son would definitely defeat Blagden. But when he saw that his baby was lying on the floor, his expression immediately changed. Toshiro became very angry and immediately asked who did it. Everyone who was at the event started pointing their fingers at the guy. Since Blagden ruined his son's soul, Toshiro wanted revenge. He summoned his fighting spirit and prepared to attack right now. The guy tried to explain to him that his son was spoiled and so arrogant that in the end he turned out to be what he is now. It's only his fault and no one else's. Unfortunately, these words only angered my father, and he ran into the attack. In his eyes there was only anger and hatred. Blagden, in turn, was very calm. One can even assume that the guy knows for sure who will win this fight. When it came time to cut off the attack, Uncle Michi came to the rescue. He easily repelled the attack instead of Blagden. The guy was very surprised that someone even came to his aid. This angered Toshiro even more. At the same time, his uncle supported the guy and said that Michiaki was very dominant, so he brought it on himself. Then Toshiro's father, whose name was Yasu, got into the fight and started to disperse them. The main argument was that everyone is in the same family. It makes no sense to fight against each other. It's more embarrassing when a brother raises his hand against his brother. No one will fall against the leader of the family, so everyone calmed down. First thing, Yasu went to the guy and asked him if his meridians had recovered. The lad answered proudly, "Yes, sir." This man comforted Blagden every day when his veins were destroyed. He would be very glad that the guy managed to recover, and wished him in the future never give up no matter what happens. Toshiro started screaming about how this guy killed his son. The destruction of a genius is a great sin, therefore, it is necessary to expel the one who did this from the family. The guy immediately found something to answer this. Michiaki is not as good as they say compared to him. It was clearly seen that Blagden is many times stronger. If people call him a loser, how did he manage to defeat the little genius Michiaki? It's just ridiculous. This little boy pissed off the guy too much, and he destroyed his spirit out of self-preservation. If he had not defended himself, then everything would have ended very badly. Blagden then asked if his fighting spirit was unusual, if he could let this incident go unpunished. Toshiro started laughing because everyone knows that a guy can't even awaken the most ordinary spirit. Despite this, Blagden was very self-confident, and immediately returned to the monument. This family has one very important rule. If a family member fails to awaken his fighting spirit at the age of 15, yes, he will be expelled from the family. Today the guy had the last chance to prove his right to be in this family. Even at such a crucial moment, the guy remained calm and in a good mood. He smiles as if he had already succeeded. Everyone who supports him cares deeply about him. Yasu suggested not to delay, and do it right now. Without thinking twice, the guy began to collect his energy fist, and made a blow. In a past life, when he awakened the purple golden martial soul of the green dragon, he was only 6 years old, so in this life, the guy planned to become even stronger. But unfortunately, it was not possible to awaken the spirit. Nothing happened after the blow. Toshiro immediately began to laugh out loud, saying that the guy would never become stronger than his son Titan. He also called him a loser. Yasu was very upset when he saw that Blagden still couldn't awaken his spirit. But suddenly a miracle happened. The monument began to sparkle so much that the people around were a little blind. A copper tower formed in the sky. Osamu was beginning to understand what was going on, but he couldn't believe his eyes yet. Fighting spirits come in white, red-orange, yellow, green, purple-blue, purple-red, purple-gold, red-gold, and 12 platinum grades. The guy himself was shocked by what he saw. The copper tower is just a level of green. There were a lot of thoughts on this matter. Blagden guessed that the 12-story tower is the source of fighting spirit, because there is a huge shadow tower in the very heart of the demons. Maybe it has something to do with it. But why then the score is so low? The guy was dissatisfied with the result. More precisely, he did not yet understand how good or bad everything was. Despite the low score, Michi was very happy that it did happen. Toshiro could not believe his eyes, and began to insult the guy loudly, and also say that he would take his life. In fact, it was not all that bad, since the spirit turned out to be unusual after all, which meant that all charges against Blagden were dropped. When Toshiro realized this, he began to tear apart even more. He began to scream that this guy ruined the soul of his son. He has no forgiveness. They immediately tried to put him in his place, saying that his son really behaved badly, so all this happened to him deservedly. Unfortunately, he did not understand the words, so he had to use a little force. For disrespecting the elder, he was punished. In fact, the class was very important for this family, so no one is going to kick the guy out. Then this rabid father was once again asked to leave everything as it is and not talk about it anymore. Yasu also fully supported the guy. Because of this, Toshiro was really very upset. He could not believe that even his own father did not agree with them. At this time, Akari was already in full congratulations to his brother on his first awakening. Now the boy was worthy to be called her brother. The guys came to the family hall, which was founded by their ancestors. According to legend, about 300 years ago, the family was very mighty. Passers-by were already discussing with might and main the current situation that occurred near the monument. Everyone around knew that Blagden had awakened the spirit of the Earth class. But most of all, they were waiting for Michiaki to get his power back. I got my revenge on him. Meanwhile, the guys looked at the hall with great surprise. In order for the family to always be very strong, it must have a strong pedigree. Suddenly, the guy felt a painfully familiar smell to him. But what is it? It was the essence of his past life. It looked so beautiful, sparkling and squirming. In a past life, the boy practiced a sacred martial art called blood magic armor. With 10 demons as the basis, it became available, as many as 6 levels. First, you need to collect 50 drops of red liquid to become the owner of the Dragon Tiger armor. If you collect as many as 100 drops of red liquid, you can become the owner of the armor of the Spirit of the Earth, and 500 blowjobs are needed in order to become the owner of the armor of the Spirit of Water. After that, it is already necessary to collect drops of essence in order to become the owner of the armor of the Spirit of Gold. However, the 5th level needs 1 more drop of red liquid in order to get the Earth Demon armor. Last time, the guy managed to reach the 6th level, and 3 drops of his essence turned into a devil armor. She is able to withstand the dragon strike, and stop the thunder of heaven. Having blown up his body in a past life, the boy spilled the red liquid all over the continent. He didn't even think he would be able to see it so soon. At the entrance, the guys were met by a young guy, and he said that without the order of the chief, no one can enter here. Blagden did not like it very much, but he decided not to be too harsh with these people. To begin with, he asked where the lion's statue had disappeared. The fact was that a few years ago this stone lion suddenly came to life and became extremely powerful. But he was very ferocious, destroyed many of the family's students. Fortunately, the patriarch managed to stop him. If not for him, then because of the fangs of this lion, even more people would have died. The guy suggested that this statue could torture the essence of his past life into itself, and thus come to life. If Blagden recovers the essence of his past life and places it in the demon net, there will definitely be some consequences. No one knows where this lion is now. At the moment when it was eaten weakened, it became absolutely useless. The head of the family wanted to sell it by putting this lion in the family store, so it is probably now on sale. The boy asked his sister to show him the way to the store. He urgently needs to see this lion. At this time, a buyer had already appeared in the store, who was going to pick up the lion. His name was Dante. Now he's sorry to name the price. Despite the fact that Leo had already weakened, he looked very menacing and scary. I wonder for what purpose he wants to buy him. Since this man was very serious, the seller offered him to pick up the lion for free. As a rule, they don't take money from such people. Dante was very happy to hear this and asked his men to take the cage. Apparently the seller just walked the best relationship between them, so I gave it away for free. Why does Blagden break into the store? He said that this Leo is not for sale. The seller's such a statement caused a storm of emotions. Dante pretended to be very happy to see the guy, and tried to talk his teeth into him while his guys take the cage. But Blagden, not as simple as it seems at first glance, for the deaf once again repeated that this Lev is not for sale. The seller tried to take the initiative into his own hands. He called the guy all sorts of bad words, and said that you need to talk to Dante very politely. Initially the guy did not pay attention to this, but when he heard frank insults in his address, he could not restrain himself and hit him in the face with his fist. He is not ready to tolerate such an attitude towards himself. The seller was shocked by such impudence. Instead of calming down, he continued to insult. As a result, for this he received in the face again, only stronger. But nothing ended there. Blagden approached him point blank, and asked again what he called him. The seller answered with insults, for which he was again punished. The guy took his head in his hand and hit it right on the asphalt. Then he asked him to speak louder so that everyone could hear. This time the seller finally think with your head, and he called the guy young master. Dante stood quietly on the sidelines, and was simply shocked by what was happening. Then the salesman started calling himself just a piece of wood and a dog, all so that the guy wouldn't hit him again. The same seller, who now calls himself a piece of money, is at the 9th level of body hardening. After this fight, Dante realized that the boy was finally cured. But still he believes that the guy won only because he attacked first. He would not have had a chance in an honest fight. After the fight, Dante congratulated the guy. All the restoration of his meridian. This is very impressive. Sochi immediately told his workers not to stop, and as soon as possible to take the cage with the lion out of here. Blagden, why is Dante so impudent? Does he really not understand the human language? The assistants turned out to be quite brave guys. They decided to attack the guy in order to protect part of their master. Everyone who treats him disrespectfully should get what they deserve. On the one hand, this is correct, but on the other hand, they still did not understand with whom I was dealing. One of them lost his life before he even drew his sword. The second, when he went into attack, was able to live not much longer, literally a few seconds. Dante got very angry when the guy destroyed his servants. It's almost the same as attacking a person personally, so he immediately wanted to take revenge and attacked Blagden. Of course, the blow was unusual, but magical. The guy immediately responded in kind, and they clashed fist to fist, two completely different forces, drilling among themselves. Apparently, the guy's blow was stronger, because Dante was thrown to the side. Why the guy turned to his sister, and asked what was going on here. The girl had a very sad look. Apparently she knew something, and did not tell about it. At this point Dante starts laughing out loud. He couldn't believe that the guy really didn't know anything. As it turned out, Akari is quite well in control of her body. For the sake of Blagden she went to her brother Dante for medicine. In exchange for this medicine, he asked to spend the night with him, and then there would definitely be no problems with supplies. At that moment the girl answered that she needed to think about this proposal. Akari cried a lot and tried her best to justify herself. The guy got tired of listening to this, and told Dante to shut his stinky mouth. Unfortunately, as I expected, no one here understood in simple words. Everything goes only through force, so Blagden attacked him. The guy managed to deliver the strongest blow directly to the chest of the enemy. He also promised that Dante remember this day forever, and especially this moment. The kid destroyed his meridians. Then he walked up to his sister and told her never to do that again. No matter what happened, He then ordered the cage to be opened. Initially, they tried to dissuade the guy from this, because Leo went crazy and could bring a lot of trouble. To which he told me to argue with him and do what he ordered. The question arises why there are only 45 drops of essence in the body of this stone lion, because without 50 drops it is impossible to get spiritual intelligence. Then Blagden tried to talk to the lion, asked where his right eye was. In response to this, the lion began to growl. The boy took his sister by the hand, and together they saddled the lion. He was supposed to take them to his other eye. I was very strong, and had incredible movement speed. Dante was simply shocked by what he saw. The lion brought the guys one of the forests of the district. The guy knew right away that this was the place. Exactly in this place 3 years ago the owner of this body was kidnapped by the enemy here. As a result, he became a cripple. Now that the guy has been reborn in a new body, he is ready to take revenge. Whoever it is, revenge will definitely be done. Akari noticed that her brother was thinking too much, so she got a little scared. But after a while he replied that everything was fine, and the guys needed to move further on the way. A huge stone cave appeared. Inside I noticed a huge, magical thunder serpent. In fact, to see it here is quite a rarity. If the boy could absorb the essence of the thunder python, he would be able to cultivate. Why did the guys notice that someone is already fighting this snake, and doing it quite skillfully? This warrior moved very quickly, and could jump high. This allowed him to go back to the snake and insert his spear into it. But this did not mean that it would be finished. The monster was quite strong, so he threw the warrior to the ground, and then attacked him. Blagden could not stand aside. Therefore, he decided to intervene, thereby saving the warrior. During the battle, the guy noticed that the snake has 3 eyes. The third eye is the one that the lion lost. The guy grabbed his neck and threw him face straight into the ground. Apparently this is his favorite move. The consequences were incredible. The kite fell unconscious. Then the mysterious lone warrior attacks the guy, but all to no avail as he managed to return. Blagden said that he saved his life. Why should they fight among themselves? The warrior replied that it was easy to defeat the snake, and he did not need help. After that he said that he would take the body of the snake, and the body of Blagden too. That's how you help people after that. Why did Guy ask if this warrior knew who he was dealing with? He replied that he perfectly understands who he is dealing with. Now the head of Blagden is worth 10,000 low-grade spiritual stones. In the 8 desert continents, spirit stones are included as currency. They are classified into higher and lower grades. 10,000 low-grade stones is approximately equal to 500 acres of land. Akari tried to convince him to fight and disperse peacefully, because if her brother had not helped, then this warrior would have been eaten alive, and no one could help. The guy's patience was slowly ending, and the warrior still continued to tell what a loser Blagden was. The main reason he wants to fight is 10,000 stones. If no one offered this amount, then everything would be much simpler. Then another man came to them and began to laugh out loud. He called the warrior fat, and said that 10,000 stones is too much for him, because he cannot even find an ordinary treasure. The warrior began to say that it was he who destroyed the dragon, found this asshole, to whom all this belongs only to him. This man turned out to be quite stubborn. He said that the thing does not belong to the one who found it, but to the one who received it. Blagden was tired of listening to this meaningless conversation. For a start, he decided to ask politely if the guys had talked enough. The warrior answered him rather impudently. He said that it was impossible to interrupt the elders and called the guy a jerk. Since patience was already at 0, Blagden decided not to answer anything, but simply to hit his stomach well with his fist. Maybe it will make it clearer to them that no one is going to wait long. Up to this point, the warrior was 100% sure that the guy's meridians were destroyed, and he poses no threat at all. But after this blow, everything fell into place. Also, while the warrior was falling, he remembered that the boy had destroyed the snake with one blow. An ordinary person would never be able to do this. After the start of the fight, the second man immediately wanted to run away. Blagden strongly advised him not to run anywhere, if he wants to live, of course. The man immediately began to apologize on his knees for all his jokes, and asked not to be offended by him. He would not do that again. The guy didn't need those useless apologies. He yearned to take the magic sack. The man asked why the guy needs a bag, what he will do with it. There is a lot of stuff in there. This was what he needed. He asked to give everything that the peasant had. Without thinking twice, he gave his bag with things, and asked to be released. The man also told where his friend's magic bag was located. Then the guy let him go. First of all, Blagden went and took away the magic bear, also a single warrior. When the man fled, he shouted that he had never met such impudence. The family in which the guy was very wealthy, so they also rob. As it turned out, he did not put all his treasures in a bag. He managed to hide the seeds of fire in his pocket. Blagden heard about this and immediately caught up with the man. Already according to tradition, for a start, he simply asked to give the seeds in words. If he refuses to do this, then he will have to take it away by force. With tears in his eyes, the man still gave the seeds. It is a pity that the seeds were not clean enough. But fortunately now helped to detect the presence of real fire seeds, only within 100 miles. The sister was very happy, because this seed was very important for her brother, and he finally found it. The warrior also pretended to be glad, but no one paid any attention to him. Since the guy stole 2 magic bags, he gave one of them to his sister. The warrior tried to return his bag. He began to beg the guy about it. Blagden answered him that one should be grateful for the saved life, and if something is not to your liking, then everything can be fixed. As a result, the happy brother and sister went on about their business. The warrior was left to cry here. After Blagden returned the second class to Leo, there were exactly 50 drops of red liquid in his body. His past life, these drops of essence had a subtle effect on him. The guy took the red essence liquid for himself, but it seems that the spiritual mind of the lion is still present. Akari noticed that the lion's mood has changed dramatically. He is not as cheerful as before. Why is he so upset? The fact is that this Leo had no strength left at all, but he still has a spirit. By the way, the guy allowed his sister to take this Leo to herself if she really liked him. The girl was simply delighted with this proposal, and of course agreed. While the girl is enjoying her new lion, the guy went home. Today was a pretty eventful day. Thought he decided to use the seed. During the ritual, he became aware that the snake's thunder mark had also disappeared somewhere. With his help, the seal he now has can be translated into the seal of thunder. In the end, it took 5 whole days to absorb 50 drops of red rarity from a past life. Red devil armor, thunder seal were ready. Now you need to harden your body. If you do this, the heavenly thunder technique reaches the first level. The seal of heavenly thunder and the earth must absorb their own power. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any sign of thunder in the past few days. It looks like it will take some time. Absorbing the essence of the red liquid and thunder strengthens the body. The combination of the red devil armor and the seal of thunder makes the guy's body even harder. That's what he needs. I wonder why there are so few children in the arena today. Akari notified her brother that today is a family meeting. You must definitely come. When the guy came to the arena, everyone was very surprised. Since Michiaki lost the last family tournament, he hasn't been here again. He was then very publicly humiliated. People did not yet understand where the boy got the courage to come back here. This Blagden greatly humiliated him and destroyed a very powerful fighting spirit. But today he did not appear alone, but with his older brother whose name was Levi. They immediately went towards the guy with pretensions. Michiaki had never been afraid of anyone from the Blagden family before, but this time he was exhausted too much. This battle left a very heavy residue on him. In martial arts, the worst thing for the masters is that fear can appear in their hearts. Levi immediately got personal. He called the guy a bastard and said that he made a fearful girl out of his brother. Then he promised to destroy his soul and meridians in today's family competition. He also said that he would make the guy an invalid for the rest of his life. Blagden asked in a calm voice what Levi called him. The eldest brother, as the roof went down, he publicly began to say not good things about the guy's mother, called her a girl of easy virtue, and her father an alcoholic. This rotten speech was interrupted by Yasu. Apparently, this is the only adequate person in this family. But even if grandfather asked to stop, Levi still could not shut up and continued to say terrible things in front of the full guy. Like Blagden, not the type to repeat twice or take too long, he clenched his hand into a fist and punched right in the face. As expected, this caused a storm of negative emotions in Levi. After that, the guy climbed into the arena and offered to arrange a fight that would go on until someone stops breathing. The senior brother immediately agreed to this proposal. He wanted everyone to see how he would destroy Blagden. The fuss began around. Everyone began to discuss this conflict, and to think who would win this fight after all. Just a couple of minutes later, both fighters were already in the ring. Since Blagden was already cured, people began to suspect that this duel might not end well. In fact, Levi was far from the weakest opponent. He was already at the 7th level of spiritual strength, supported by the Link Academy, where Blagden had so much courage. Levi couldn't believe that this guy decided to challenge him. How dare he act like that towards the elders? Before the start of the battle, the father of these two feeble-minded children asked the eldest son not to restrain himself, and to destroy Blagden with just one move. Sounds like fantasy. Let's see what happens in practice. Blagden, in turn, warned Toshiro that now, unfortunately, he would have another sickly son. After these words, there was a feeling that the father would now enter the ring himself and fight against the guy. The eldest son tried to calm him down. He said that now Blagden will get what he deserves, because if the guy hits him at least once, then everything human will disappear from him, and it will be impossible to stop him. The guy said straight to his face that Levi was not human anyway. Toshiro hated with all his heart how his children were beaten or insulted, how he could be understood as a father, but not as a sane person. The guy also added that he does not even consider the father of these two restless children a man. If he were him, he would not have neglected the rules of his family, and would not have sent his nephew to the deprivation of life. As it turned out, then in the cave, the warrior himself told who offered 10,000 stones for the guy's head. It was Toshiro. It turns out he went to the most extreme measures to destroy Blagden. When this information became public, of course, he began to make excuses and say that this was all a blatant lie. The guy just started laughing when he heard how ridiculous Toshiro justified himself, and his eldest son at that moment stood in front of the kid and wished him to lose his life as soon as possible. As a result, from such a bitter truth, his nerves could not stand it, so in order to somehow shut up the mouth of the main character, Levi started the fight ahead of time. The guys clashed with their fists and began to put all their strength into the blow. Yasu looked at it and couldn't believe that the guy managed to reach the 4th level of spiritual power in just a few days. In the first skirmish, Blagden's blow turned out to be much stronger. The opponent literally flew back. The spectators were simply shocked. How is it possible for Levi to be at the 7th level of spiritual strength and still lose? Levi himself could not believe it. Right during the battle, he began to shout that it was impossible, but there was nowhere to go. He had to fight to the last. Then, due to his great anger, he wanted to know the truth. According to his feelings, Blagden was also at least at the 7th level. The guy said confidently, "You don't have to worry about this. He doesn't have the 7th level." Even though he had absorbed 50 drops of red liquid essence, the strength was significantly higher than Levi's. The boy wins solely due to the experience that was gained during the battles from his past life. So in fact, when Blagden proposed this fight, he was not in a favorable position at all. Meanwhile, Levi's nerves finally lost. He could not understand how the guy manages to fight like that without having the 7th level. After sensible thoughts began to come into his head, he finally began to understand that he had underestimated the boy, and was not too careful. It was noticeable that Blagden was tired of talking, and was already determined to finish it all right now. Therefore, he said that it would be a great honor for Levi to lose his life from his blow. The older brother was surprised at how confidently his opponent spoke despite the fact that he had a green fighting spirit. Believing in himself, Levi went on the attack. The guy was just waiting for this. in order to successfully intercept her and take the initiative into his own hands. To meet him, he released a magical hand twice as strong. This allowed him not only to repel the attack, but to take the entire duel under his control. He hit back and threw Levi out of the ring altogether. It was an unconditional victory. The fourth level defeated the seventh right in front of everyone. The audience simply could not believe their eyes. They can be understood. This is far from being seen every day. Blagden has already managed to ridicule the staring, hard and strong blow of his opponent, which he managed to intercept without any problems. But all over it was too early to rejoice, and this is not the end. Levi got up with difficulty, then took out some kind of pill from his pocket and began to eat it. He went to the most extreme merry. It was already clearly against the rules. After taking this pill, Levi's eyes turned red, after which he summoned an extremely strong spiritual warrior. Since Blagden is not living this life for the first time, he immediately realized that this is a pill for forced cultivation. The price of one such cultivation is a certain amount of red liquid, as well as a small withdrawal of potential. Before going on the attack, Levi said that he would never be able to become a man again if he did not take the life of Blagden today. The guy was not upset about this at all, because he had never considered his opponent as a person anyway. At that moment he was already completely ready to take the fight. In these conditions, the guy was already 4 levels lower, and not 3. This betrayed much more confidence to his opponent, and he again ran into the attack. In order to protect himself, Blagden activated the red magical armor of the first level. Then he summoned a dragon tiger, along with red tiger armor. He released his magic hand in response, and easily repelled the opponent's attack. Levi was just shocked by what happened. Due to the fact that he was initially very tired, then took a pill, and put absolutely all his remaining strength into this blow, he completely lost control and began to fall to the ground. The audience did not stop discussing this fight. They became very interested, since when did Blagden become so strong and powerful? In the last competitions, he could not even compare with Levi, and now he defeated him so easily. Osamu also froze in place, and tried to understand what had just happened. At one point he even stopped blinking his eyes. Levi was on his knees and was ready to start crying at any moment. He vehemently believed that he could not be defeated. After such a powerful blow, the meridians of Blagden should have collapsed, and he did not even budge. The most interesting moment of this battle came. The guy turned to his opponent and said that for all the insults that he said, today he would destroy his meridians, after which he punched him right in the chest. Michiaki was very frightened when he saw his brother fall to the floor unconscious. There was no limit to the anger of the father, because the guy destroyed the soul of the youngest son, and now the meridians of the second eldest son. He swore to everyone in the world that he would destroy Blagden. In response, the guy said that he gave life to Levi, only because he is his cousin. These words destroyed the last nerve cell in you, father. Without any hesitation, he attacked the guy and tried to hit him. But someone grabbed his hand and told him to stop it now. This was done by Osamu. He kept order here, and could not allow an adult to attack a young fighter, especially knowing what his motive is. The sons turned out to be too weak and lost in a fair fight. Then Levi called his father, and he seemed to calm down. The son asked to return home, and promised his father that he would take revenge for Blagden 100 times stronger. While this sad family was resolving their issues, Osamu told the guy how much he admires him. His talents are now much better than before. He promised to tell the elders about today's events. They will definitely give some practical advice. Blagden was very grateful for this. On the way home, the father told his sons that if it were not for these two old men, he would have destroyed this fellow right now. The purpose of his life was to make sure that Blagden passed away in the most terrible way. At this time, everyone continued to admire the guy's incredible feat. Even Yasu approached him and praised him, just like his grandfather said that after watching this fight, he gained quite valuable experience. People called him the most powerful in their family. Many wished him to meet other powerful warriors as soon as possible, but none of them knew that Blagden in a past life was the god of war, who could even show him the true path in all 7 continents. Based on this, the boy realized that he could only rely on himself. Yasu then entered the ring and asked everyone to be quiet. He announced that the first place in this family competition was taken by Blagden. Does anyone have any objections? There was a completely logical question. If the guy could defeat Levi, then who could even fight him? But unfortunately, there was no answer. Now the people welcomed this guy as a new genius. This could not but rejoice. The sister was also very happy and glad for her brother. Since there is no objection to this young fighter having the first place, the Thunder Fruit Family Competition prize will go to the winner. Everyone was delighted with the prize. The Thunder Fruit hardens the flesh, making it stronger, and this is very useful for a person. Blagden had already passed the tempered body realm a long time ago, and had reached the spiritual realm. Giving this item to him would be a waste. In addition to hardening the body, it has another hidden effect. If you absorb the fruit during the thunder, you can get the spiritual power of the world, and this is a very big achievement. Everyone was then notified that the annual meeting of the Blagden family would take place in 3 p.m. as scheduled. Yasu approached the guy separately and asked him to go away with him for a while, so that he could talk one-on-one. They came together to the family temple. As Blagden's power has grown significantly, this gives hope for sweet revenge. When the guy went inside the temple, his red liquid began to boil. Now he was sure that this temple contained the essence of his past life. Blagden pointed his finger and asked the guy if he knew these spiritual tables. Grandfather began to say that the very first head of the family was with a green class fighting spirit and ordinary abilities. But step by step he became much stronger. Thanks to this, he led his family to establish the status of one of the 8 great families on 8 continents. Unfortunately, the owner of the family had a very rabid personality. One of the powers was unhappy with this and secretly plotted. Because of this, now this family is considered the most ordinary in this small doomsday town. At that time, the head of the family did not want to be a simple person and work hard to build a family business. Now the family lives on much better than then, but it is no longer possible to return to its former glory. In the guy's past life, he exploded and spilled 3,000 essences of the red liquid, and apparently the ancestor was lucky to absorb some of it, otherwise he would not have been able to achieve such success. Yasu then added that we are all like children, should imitate our ancestors, train hard and work hard. He also has a dream to give the family its former glory and completely destroy the family of the neighboring family with which there are certain problems. During the time when the Lord defended the 8 waste continent, he fought the Lord for 7 days and 7 nights. But then, when the head of the family returned, he found out that, in a family in which there were about 100 people, only 12 of them survived, and in the end he managed to restore the Emu family, but already in this city. In general, Yasu has been leading all this time to the fact that the guy has great potential. Grandfather was already sure that he would not have time to return the family to its former status. But Blagden is still the only one in whom he sees hope. The guy looked at the monument of this leader of the family and said to him, since he absorbed Blagden's blood in a past life, he can consider him a student. The kid is going to take revenge for what was done to his ancestors then. It was on this day that Yasu decided to give the young fighter a valuable family asset. It was a first-class spiritual education. Grandpa was very surprised when he found out that the guy generally knows about such a thing as spiritual education. At that time, he was a 7th grade spiritual education master. How could he not know that? Then the harm, and all the items, quite by accident, the kid caught his old sword on the gas. The girl explained that it was the broken sword of their ancestors. At that time it was used to defeat the world-famous insidious lord. This sword is too hard, which is why it was sealed with spirit education. The guy pulled this sword to his hand with the power of thought. Grandfather was very scared for him, so he asked to stop it. But when Blagden managed to calmly pick it up, he was surprised to say the least. It was the same sword that the boy used in a past life, the most ruthless sword. If a person picks it up, he becomes cold and ruthless, and his combat power increases many times. like a deity that destroys all enemies on the way. It was created from hellish steel, and forged by the first master of the lower kingdoms in 300 days. Now this ruthless sword is divided into 9 parts, and this is one of them, but the most important part is the hilt, with which it will be possible to practice a new modern martial art called Kendo. Yasu laughed happily and said that this sword never recognized its lord in its life. Even the ancestors could not get his approval. It was very difficult to believe that he chose Blagden, although broken, but from now on will belong to the boy. Now grandfather is sure for sure that this family will live for a very long time, since it gave birth to a genius. Right during the walk, the sword began to produce some kind of magical action, after his boyfriend moved to heaven, even without a sword in his hands. There he saw his ancestor. Apparently now there will be a long scene that will show how he fought with the deity. It was the most difficult battle, during which the combat skills and abilities of a very high level were used. As a result, a decisive blow was dealt, and the deity fell apart. Then this warrior noticed that Blagden was present here. He immediately flew to him, knelt down, and handed over this sword. How this ancestor at that time absorbed almost all the red liquid of the guy, and returned the sword to him. So they were destined to meet, because the ancestor is half his disciple. The guy swore to avenge the terrible deprivation of the life of his relative, then took this sword in his hands. Meanwhile, Toshiro still could not calm down, and continued all this time to tell how the guy crippled his 2 sons. He would not be a man in his life if he did not take revenge. Since Levi's meridians are destroyed, he will never be able to train again. Instead of living in shame, it is better to take one interesting pill. Toshiro was extremely opposed to his son taking it because it is a red devil pill. Although it can restore the meridians and stimulate the potential, the side effects are so great that once swallowed they will definitely persist into the future. The father offered his son to wait a little longer. He was sure that he could find a way to fix his son's problems with the meridians. Michiaki, in turn, began to support his brother. It is necessary to take a pill in order to come and destroy Blagden. The older brother said that he did not care about the side effect. For him the main thing was to take the life of the one who brought a lot of trouble to their family, and he did not want to waste a single minute. Levi swore to his younger brother that he would avenge him once this magic pill worked. The father was furious, but still did not go against the decision of his son. He only told him that if it came to this, then his son should take the time to soak up the red liquid for the duration of the pill. In 3 months there will be an autumn hunt of the enemy family. The father has already contacted the Fury sect. They will be able to destroy Blagden with the help of this poor family. The sons really like this idea. Blagden will never guess that the person who destroyed his meridians was a member of the Fury sect. It will be a lot of fun. It was already deep night. The guy finally decided to talk with his sword. Last time, the sword followed him and destroyed so many enemies that its potential form absorbed a fair amount of evil spirits. It is a pity that the sword was broken into as many as 9 pieces. Then the guy noticed that a thunderstorm had formed outside. It was just the perfect time to practice with the thunder fruit. Under the roof of the night, the guy moved to training. A passerby almost immediately noticed how some brave guy went out for a walk in such heavy rain. Looking at him, one could assume that he fell in love. 80% of people do this. Such love has come out in this world. It is the communion of life and the end of life. But also these people have heard that in this way some warriors close their thunder power bodies. This guy is running out of town. Could this mean something? Thunder hardening sounded like something unbelievable to them, because no one in the whole city could do such a thing. It was true, because there is not a single young man in this city who is stronger than Master Hai. This guy is known as Body Monster. He was sure that the one who tries to make the tempering with thunder will not succeed, and he could only wish good luck. Then, when the guy flew right next to them, the Master Hea had eyes of 5 kopecks each. They decided to follow the guy. Meanwhile, Blagden got to where he needed to be just in time. The effect of simply absorbing the thunder fruit on the body is minimal, but if with the power of thunder, then the effect will be much better. The guys who noticed the guy already took the best viewing places. They could not believe that the guy really wants to close his body with the help of thunder. Well, it's impossible. The power of the thunder is too great. Does not have a strong body. It is no different from trying to lose his life. Then they agreed not to make any noise, but just to see what trick the guy uses to make it work. Lightning completely covered the body. It could be said with confidence he succeeded. No one could imagine that in the city of Doomsday there is a person with a stronger body than Master Hai. Then the guys suggested that the young fighter must have something that helps protect his body, because otherwise hardening is impossible. But what kind of item is it? More people are gathering. The guy was just a few steps away from completing the ritual. Hui, without thinking twice, decided to attack the guy in order to interrupt all his procedures. Blagden was very surprised that someone in the middle of a dark forest found him and decided to attack him. Unfortunately, due to the fact that the guy was busy, he missed the first impact. But this did not knock him off his feet. Now the ritual has been interrupted. The guy is in a very disadvantageous position. The Master Hai demanded to give him the treasures. In response to this, the guy is just at the dining room shameless. Hui was shocked that the guy had the courage to address him like that. Initially he was going to let him go, and now that the guy insulted him in front of many people, he could not let it be. From the outside it sounded very funny. If you came to fight, they say some kind of goodbye. Among the people, the masters of Heya are called a monster. Most likely the time has come to destroy it. The master promised to use the power of his flesh to incinerate the guy. The guys clashed with their fists. Now they accurately determine which of them is stronger. This time, the guy's blow was clearly more powerful, because the master flew off in the opposite direction. His surprise simply knew no bounds. How such a young fighter, with such a low level of a man, could resist him. The blow was so strong that the master began to spit red liquid. No one had brought him to such a state. It was something incredible. The audience began to recognize Blagden. This is the same loser who could not wake up until the age of 15. And now he is already fighting with the master himself. Everyone was looking forward to the results of this fight. After the blow, the master began to complain, because the guy promised to use only physical strength, but at the same time using magic. The people who supported the master also supported the absurd accusation. How is it possible to use magic weapons during the battle? This is not an act of a real warrior. The master began to crush what? The guy has a thin gut to fight without magic. Blagden got tired of listening to this stupid chatter, and he decided to attack. The master has already realized that this guy is not a blunder. I wonder what ability he got in the end. The master has been training his body for 20 years, but still remains worse than a piece of shit. In order to somehow resist, you need to use spiritual power. The master began to shout loudly, and went into a tight attack. The master began to use his spiritual power. Although he himself had just asked to fight with physical power, this is the meanest thing he could ever do. And his servants kept making excuses for him. They didn't care how absurd the situation was. Everyone who supported the master wanted him to destroy the beloved guy in ways. Some people have already begun to sell them for the sacred day. Fate itself has brought all the people here together. They were lucky to see two gentlemen fighting each other. The warrior invited everyone to come up to him and place bets so that people could get a little rich. Because here it was obvious who would win. It would definitely be a master. Some people became very angry with the organization. How can you talk about it in such a sacred place? It seems this person has gone crazy because of money. The answer to this, the warrior asked, does anyone doubt the victory of his master? After these words, people slowly began to approach and place bets. The first person bet 12 silver coins on master's victory. Literally just recently, the master spat blood. This is at least a reason to doubt his victory. But this time he uses spiritual power, so he cannot lose. Why did everyone who had the opportunity run to put money on the master? Everyone who left on him hated Blagden without exception. Just give them a reason, and they will do the worst towards him. As a result, absolutely everyone who had money put them on the side of the master. Apparently, the warrior was far from a stupid person. Deep down he understood who Blagden would win. They were his master, so the only one who put on the guy was exactly him. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the vaunted master, with his own eyes, did not even have time to follow the movements of Blagden. It was necessary to finish these dances with a tambourine. The process of exhaustion of the enemy was coming to an end. It's time to apply the blade strike. The blow was extremely accurate. The guy hit right in the face. After which the master immediately fell to the ground. Everyone was shocked, of course, except for the warrior who took the bets. He just smiled slyly under his mask. He easily managed to rob naive people. People began to beg the master to gather his strength, but so far he only missed blows. Not only could not gather himself, he was no longer able to move normally. Meanwhile, a strong quarrel began between the audience. They began to blame each other for the wrong forecast.